Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We are a brother short tonight. There's a certain game on behind Yancey there that I think Cody was more interested in than coming to talk to us. But he said he's at a dinner with friends, and you you got to be sure that the game's on in some capacity. But
Yeah, those
anyway,
friends might be DK Metcalf, Geno Smith.
yeah. But
Good friends to
right,
have, bro.
Yeah,
yeah. Right
Over
now,
Randy.
49ers up 3-0 in the second quarter, but check on that later. Um, Today we have a lot of things to cover and hope we can get through it all. I think most of our topics will be pretty quick, and that's good. So, but let's start with a memory from Dustin.
Yeah, we're gonna do a bio
Oh,
this
that's right.
week on Derrick Rose. Recently announced his retirement from the NBA, and wanted to highlight his career and just what a fantastic player he was, especially early in his career, and then some of the challenges he faced. So Derrick Rose was high school Mr. Basketball in Illinois. He's from South Chicago, and ended up going to the University of Memphis under John Calipari when he was there, and took Memphis to a top team in the NCAA that year in 2007, 2008, I believe, and was a All-American. Had a fantastic college career, and then was drafted number one overall 2008 draft by the Chicago Bulls.
His hometown team.
Yep, by his hometown team, Chicago Bulls. Proceeded to win Rookie of the Year in 2009, and then make it to three consecutive All-Star teams in 2010, 2011, 2012. And as we know, in 2011, he became the youngest player in NBA history to win the MVP award, the best player in the NBA in 2011. And it was well deserved. He was absolutely deserving of that year at just 22 years old. And then tragedy struck in 2012 in the NBA playoffs when he did a jump pass and landed awkwardly on his left leg, and you could see it just gave out, and he tore his ACL in his left knee. And as a result, their championship hopes went down the drain, unfortunately, and they were definitely the favorites to win the championship the year, to beat the Heat, to beat the LeBron James Dwayne Wade Heat in order to go to the championship that season, and unfortunately did not because of this terrible injury. He tried to come back and ended up having multiple knee injuries over the next couple of years, and then bounced around a few different teams, played on the Knicks, the Cavaliers. He went to one or two finals with the Cavaliers when they got beat by the Warriors consecutive times, Pistons, and then back to the Knicks, and then eventually finished his career with the Grizzlies, and then announced his retirement. And so that he's three-time All-Star, MVP 2011, perhaps the most athletic player to ever put on a pair of basketball shoes that we've ever seen. And what was incredible is even after his injuries later in his career, his field goal percentage at the rim remained at the high that he had it during early parts of his career. His finishing ability never changed, just his athletic ability. But get your thoughts on recently retired Derrick Rose.
Yeah, I think you've nailed everything. When he was at Memphis, he took that team to the national championship game in 2008, I think it was, when the national championship game lost to Kansas because Mario Chalmers hit a ridiculous 3-point shot to win that game. So otherwise, Memphis wins that championship if it wasn't for Mario Chalmers. Um, that's the only thing that I'm thinking of beyond what you said, and it was sad to see that injury in 2012. I mean, you can talk about how good of a player he was. He was never the same after that injury. He just wasn't. He was still good. He could still score 13, 14, 15 points a game and 6 assists. But this guy was averaging close to 30 points before that. And so it cut him down by half, essentially, but scoring output. He could still, every once in a while, made a lot of huge plays and showed his athleticism that was still there. But yeah, um, sometimes when you're that athletic, as he was, just the athletic freak that he really was, and you have an injury that sets you back, you never reach the level of athleticism again, and especially when his star power was based on his athleticism is where that really hurt his career. I really loved watching him in 2011, and he was such a fun player to watch, um, and easily the most fun player to watch that season, 2011. And yeah, I was definitely cheering for them to win the finals that year to upset the Heat. And when that happened, I think it was, I don't know if it was in the playoff game or if it was right before the playoffs, but yeah, it was something
It,
around there that yeah, they were the number one seed, but he couldn't play the rest of it. So
yeah, I think it was first round against the 76ers. I don't
that's right.
remember what
Yeah.
round, but I think it was first round.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, so one thing that I wanted to mention, personal life for Derrick Rose, that a lot of people don't know. This guy is really, really smart too. He's a smart person. He's a smart guy. He is an avid chess player, and he's won tournaments for chess. And not saying that there's necessarily a correlation between intelligence and chess, although you can say that there is.
There is.
But he's a huge chess fanatic, and he's won tournaments for chess and understanding the strategy that goes behind probably one of the most strategic board games that there are, and how good he is at that. And so that's something just to mention off the court. So that I found when Dustin, you sent this over. So
Uh, he's huge in the Chicago community on the South Side. Has put up, like, I think a community center for sure, and has helped develop a lot of spots in Chicago that would have otherwise stayed the same without Derrick Rose helping to put back into the community that he left. And so I'll add that on. One of the best players as far as getting to the rim and finishing and getting fouled that I can think of in recent time or ever. And as a Bulls fan, he was definitely one of my favorite Bulls to ever play, other outside of like Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman, just for their pure ability and what they did for the game and how they changed the game. Being the youngest MVP, of course, has to be shouted out. So just a shout out to Dustin. Good pick on that for the bio, and a great player to look at just in general. A great point guard that played kind of like a shooting guard, you know?
Yeah, that's great. Last comment is my favorite Derrick Rose play. I have to go look it up. Is him dunking on Goran Dragic. So go look it up, go watch, especially the announcer's call, because the announcer goes, Goran Dragic, what are you doing? Do you not know Derrick Rose can go upstairs?
I was thinking about my favorite Derrick Rose play too. I think it was in the playoffs a few years after he got hurt. He hit like a 40-foot buzzer beater against LeBron James and the Heat to win the game. And the way he walked off the court was just ice cold, like it was no big deal, just walking off the court. Like, yeah, I just hit a 40-foot shot to win the game against LeBron James. Yeah, whatever. So that was cool. So yeah. Okay. Let me pull up my agenda here because I forgot what we're covering next. Um, so MLB playoff check-in. We all look like fools, by the way, after last week, because here we are and we're just, whoever wins this series between the Mets and the Brewers is just going to lose to the Phillies, and the Mets just beat the Phillies and they advance to the next round. So the Mets are now in the National League Championship Series. They beat the Phillies 3-1, and so we all look like fools. But the one thing we were positive about, there's no way the Phillies lose to either the Mets or the Brewers, and the Mets just easily walked away. And that game 4, Francisco Lindor hit they're down 1-0 in the sixth inning. Bases loaded. Francisco Lindor hits a grand slam to put him up 4-1. That's how they win in New York, and the whole place is going crazy. Pretty cool highlight to watch there. Watch Francisco Lindor hit that grand slam in Game 4. So, none of the other series are over yet. Right now, the Guardians lead the Tigers 4-3 in a series that the Tigers are trying to close out right now. They lead 2-1 and trying to win their last game at home. Guardians lead that series. Also, Yankees lead the series against the Royals 2-1, trying to close it out tonight against Kansas City. They're currently up 1-0. So, and then the other series that we're keeping track on is the Dodgers and Padres. That one is exciting. Right now, it's tied up 2-2 for a final Game 5 tomorrow. One game decides it all. The Padres had a chance to take the series last night, and the Dodgers just wiped the floor. They won 8-0 against the Padres last night. So Game 5 tomorrow night to decide that whole series. So now that I've mentioned all 4 series, what comments do you guys have?
I think I picked LA, New York for the series, didn't I? So I'm in good shape. I'm not too worried about the Phillies either way. I don't think I factored them in. I did think they were a better team, so it's weird that they lost to the Mets to me. But otherwise, irrelevant. I think it's going to finish with Yankees winning the series against LA, and LA seems to be in decent shape to do that. I mean, putting up 8-0 that's hard to come back from. That'll sit on your conscience after you lose to a team like that. So we'll just have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think that, counterpoint to that, the Padres have kind of exposed the Dodgers a little bit, help beating them twice, making this a series that, all the last game was a little uneven, has been, back and forth for the most part.
Yeah. At this point, I mean, I picked the Phillies to be in the World Series, so what do I know anymore? But it's the playoffs for a reason. You have to play the games for a reason. And last year's World Series, no one could have predicted the 2 teams that were in there, the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, neither of whom are even in the playoffs this year. And so, like, baseball is you have to show up every single game, and some teams get hot. And who knows? We could end up with a Tigers versus Padres World Series. And so, but we know the Yankees and the Dodgers are the 2 best teams by season record. But everyone in the playoffs is 0-0, and so it's time to start over again. So we'll see. Anything else about baseball? Okay. Third point, in a very surprising move, except for maybe Dustin, the New York Jets have fired Robert Saleh as their head coach after 5 games. The Jets are 2-3, and the Jets and maybe Aaron Rodgers have fired Robert Saleh. Aaron Rodgers has said repeatedly to the media that he had nothing to do with it. There's been a lot of friction between Aaron Rodgers and Robert Saleh from the very beginning. Back in training camp, at the mandatory mini camp, Aaron Rodgers shows his power and decides not to even show up in the mandatory camp, and so there's that kind of thing. There's the whole non-hug at the sideline, if you remember all that. Rodgers doesn't give a hug to Robert Saleh, or I can't remember which way that went actually. And then they've been talking back and forth like behind each other's back in the media about Robert Saleh saying, "Okay, stop with the hard count. It's not you're getting our players to go false starts." And Aaron Rodgers says they know the count. It's on them, which I agree with him. So, but anyway, there's been a lot of friction between those 2 guys, and it seems like Robert Saleh is the casualty. So, I don't know how much power Aaron Rodgers had, if any. Maybe he didn't have any, but this seems like a strange move mid-season. I have more thoughts, but I want to turn over to you guys.
I could see kind of the the idea behind it because the Jets aren't doing well. But I don't care who you stick in there. I think the Jets are overrated. I don't think that a good coach necessarily a good coach would be able to kind of right the ship. But I think that we're expecting too much from a too old Aaron Rodgers to do things that he's not going to do. That's just out of the question. The defense has failed, so you need to light a fire under them, and it's just unfortunate that the head coach is the one taking the brunt of the responsibility for this. I do understand that. I mean, it's your job to make the players play. But at the end of the day, I think that this falls on the talent, and the talent just isn't producing enough numbers wise to, vindicate anybody on that team, being able to say, no, this is my spot, this is why I belong here. Because short of even Sauce Gardner, nobody's really doing their job there. Like they're just not playing well as a team. And so I mean, I expect to see more people get fired. Honestly, they're just going to kind of try to replace whoever they can to make it go right there in New Jersey. But right now, it's just not happening. Or New York, sorry.
Yeah, good comments as you said. It's something I predicted, and it was a good question that our dad had asked about. How many games does Saleh have to win in order to avoid being fired? And my answer was, however many games proves that Aaron Rodgers is the answer. And, it was a little less than I thought, with 3 games lost and you're gone. But I think that, Jets ownership started to realize that, the shine isn't quite as shiny as they may have originally thought. And the offense isn't clicking and there's conflict and they tried to fix it. I don't see how this is going to fix things because the coach, Saleh, is a defensive coach, and you have Nathaniel Hackett as the OC, and the Jets have struggled to put points on the board. I mean, they lost to the Broncos 10-9. I mean, they never got in the end zone. It's and I there's been issues with Nathaniel Hackett's offensive system in the past, and it's showing up again. And some of the best offenses that have happened are teams that are scoring 35 to 40 points a game. And here we have a Jets team that is scoring less than 20. And so this is an offensive system that needs to be corrected. And you can't just plug an aged star in there and expect him to do it. And so I think age is an issue. I also think the system is an issue.
2 final things here. Everyone said that, or not everyone, but a lot of people, Cody in particular, said that the only thing the Jets lack is a quarterback, right, before they're good. And Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be that guy. So the Jets have scored 93 points through 5 games. Last year with Zach Wilson at quarterback, do you know how many points they had scored through 5 games? 93, exactly the same amount. So there's been absolutely no change with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback as Zach Wilson, and that's you got to be disappointing. Well, I mean, Zach Wilson's not a starter; he's in Denver. He got beat up by a rookie, so it's the exact same, and it doesn't even look as good. Breece Hall looks worse playing with Aaron Rodgers than he did with Zach Wilson. And so this offense looks worse. And so, yeah, you've got to be concerned about the offense if you're the Jets ownership. I don't understand how changing the coach right now though makes them better. Like like you're not going to find. What are you going to do? Like bring Bill Belichick off the sideline to be head coach of the Jets?
You don't want that damn job. Nobody good enough to
Right.
do the job wants that job.
So like firing him right now just doesn't make sense to try to improve your team. I think you're better to stick it out, but you know, and they're not that. I mean, they play the Bills on Monday night. The winner of that game is in second place in the division. So I mean, the Jets are not far off necessarily. So it didn't make sense to me, but obviously there was friction. So yeah. Any final thoughts? Okay. All right, football minute beyond the Jets, and Yancey's going to be covering some college football stuff later, and so just NFL right now. So, NFL football minute, one or two thoughts, sentences about the NFL right now. If we have anything to add to the Jets stuff, so if you have something, no rotation, just throw something in there if you have something.
Is Tony Richardson going to be able to play good enough to get the Colts into a wild card spot? Has he? I mean, he's won more games than I expected to see out of him and the Colts. Yeah, right. They're like 3-2.
Well, Joe Flacco played the last game because Anthony Richardson's been
Joe
injured,
Flacco
but yeah.
injured. Oh,
So-
okay. So no. Short answer, no. It's Flacco. All right, gotcha. So well, can Flacco do it?
He looked pretty good, and they lost against the Jaguars, but they were down by like 2 scores, and he suddenly throws like 2 massive touchdown passes within like 3 plays. So he just has this ability to make his team look good, even as a 40-year-old.
You know, watching game the other day, he took off for a run and ran for like 25 yards.
Yeah, that's right.
Something like that. It was. I mean, he looked like a giraffe, but it was cool to see that. And so the commentators even made fun of that. It's like, is that, do you think, the longest run of his career? You know, it's like, probably, yeah. But anyway, so it's good to see that. And I think that, you know, Flacco is kind of a proof of it's better to be smart than strong. He's got a great game mind for the game and is just always making the right decisions.
Yeah.
So I'll shout out to my Chiefs. You know, they're 5-0. I think they're the only undefeated team left, right? No, who else is?
Vikings. Vikings are still undefeated too.
Okay, so Chiefs. It's been interesting. They're winning every game, but they're playing just slightly better than whoever they play. Doesn't matter whether you played the Ravens or who they play last week.
Saints.
Yeah, Saints or whoever else, but they only play slightly better than the other team. So it's an interesting skill to have.
Yeah. My only thought was focusing on the AFC as well. I mean, obviously you have the Chiefs, and we know that they're good. We don't know how good they are necessarily. It's kind of like last year, where in the regular season they just looked okay enough to make the playoffs, and then suddenly when the playoffs hit, they're a mega super team. So it could be the same exact thing this year. But the other couple of teams there, the Houston Texans, their only loss has been to the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. They're 4-1, and so they look pretty good too. On the other side, the Cincinnati Bengals, they have looked really, really good and have lost 4 out of 5 games. They're 1-4. So it's weird. They look good, except they lose their games. So at this point, 1-4 is pretty much your season's over. You can't win enough games to overcome that. So, but it's just a weird season. I mean, the 49ers are up 13-0 now, but they don't look particularly good either at 2-3. They should have won. They should be 4-1, but they lost 2 games that they should have won. So it's been a weird season so far.
Yeah, on the 49ers, you know, they have had a lot of injuries, but I also think that they're playing kind of strange. Like just now, Brock Purdy ran it 10, 12 yards and slid. That's not Brock Purdy. He's a pocket passer. And so what's he doing running obviously shows that they're struggling to kind of figure out this passing game.
I would mostly agree with that. He should be in the pocket more, but he has more athleticism than people think. He ran a lot at Iowa State. He was a scrambling quarterback there too. It's just the system for Kyle Shanahan says you should stay in the pocket. Yeah, I don't want scrambling quarterbacks, but I think he's definitely trying to use his legs more because he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey as a guy to drop the ball down to right now.
Yeah, having that valve release, like in a really good halfback or tight end, is crucial to playing the quarterback position. on top of having a good run game. And so Christian McCaffrey was, I mean, super important to this team's success. I think more so than a lot of us realized, and definitely more than Cody realized.
Yeah, and as far as his timeline to return, I mean, I think they're going to keep him out until the bye week. Give him out give the bye week, and so that means they have a pretty tough road ahead. I think they play the Cowboys and the Chiefs before their bye week, and so a couple of really good teams there. I think their bye week is in 3 weeks, and so he's probably out for another month.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else about football? NFL. Okay, we are heading to basketball, and we have plenty of time, so that's good. Let me share my screen, I think. Yeah. Okay, do you see this presentation screen?
Yep.
Okay, so we talked about the Northwest Division last week, but we didn't have enough time to actually predict the division, and so that's what we're going to do first before jumping into the other ones. I've already put Cody's predictions in here. I don't know how we want to do this. If everyone should do their whole thing, or if we should go everyone pick one and then pick two. How do you want to do this, guys?
I'd
Go
say
by person or by seed?
I'd just do by person.
Okay, Dustin, you're next then.
Yeah, so it is interesting, this division. The teams that are most likely going to be 1, 2, 3 in the West, in my opinion, are all in the same division. And so it's a hard one to predict. But I'm going to put the Thunder at number 1, Timberwolves at 2, Nuggets at 3. And then Jazz and Blazers at 4 and 5.
Okay. I'm up next. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that these three teams are really good and these two teams are not. So I know we're going to have it all in that order. I think the Nuggets are going to finish third. I think that they're going to struggle to adjust with Westbrook and then figure it out at the end. Dustin, I'm going to go your same order here. I think the Timberwolves are going to upset them for a NBA Finals appearance, but I think the Thunder will be the top seed there. And then I have this in the same order. So Dustin, I'm in the exact same order as you. Yancey?
Always count on me to shake stuff up. Let's go Nuggets 1, Thunder 2, Wolves 3, Portland 4, Jazz in the bottom.
Okay. And later on next week, I think we'll figure out what this means for the overall conference. But so, all right, let's jump way into I think right here. Starting with the Southeast Division today, going to the Eastern Conference with the Atlanta Hawks. Last year, 10th in the Eastern Conference, they lost the play-in game, so they didn't make it to the playoffs. You can see pretty good on offense, pretty bad on defense. That was kind of where they landed. They won the lottery, so they won the first overall pick and took Zachary Rissaker out of France with their first overall pick there. A mega athlete, 6'9", and can do everything from 1 to 5 essentially, and that's why they picked him, because he can be a point guard or he can be a center or anything in between, and so that's why they love him. Trae Young still there, still scoring a lot, averaging a double-double, but struggled defensively and has throughout his career. And second unit here, Larry Nance and Cody Zeller and Dyson Daniels all come over from New Orleans to add to that. And they also took Nikola Jurisic in the second round. So same coaching staff. So, whoops. I don't remember where we left off last week. So why don't we start with you, Yancey? Just what do these additions or subtractions mean for a team that finished just on the very edge of the Eastern Conference last year?
So yeah, I mean, that Riziker kid could turn out to be a really good addition. Definitely sounds versatile and would be helpful to any team, it seems like. Uh, but I mean, I don't see a lot here. Trey Young is a great player. He's on the downslope though. I think he hit his peak kind of last year or the year before or year after. So we're going to see him more declining than anything else. Bogdanovich could be okay. He plays well, but I don't see enough star power on this team to support Trey Young or Riziker in the interim until they have the other spots figured out. So I don't see a ton of success for these guys, and I don't know what the key other than one more really big certified star to helping this team out to finding that kind of level of success that every team wants to get to.
Yeah. And going in reverse alphabetical order, I'll go next and say that one thing that I failed to mention, Bogdanovich came off the bench last year, and he was really good as a bench player because he's having to replace DeJounte Murray, who's gone. And DeJounte Murray was probably the best player on that team, honestly. Trey Young was great, but DeJounte Murray could do everything. And so having Bogdanovich have to replace DeJounte Murray, I think, with all the other additions, I think this team is going to find themselves outside of even the play-in this year.
Yeah, good comments. Like you said, it's hard to see anyone here that really ups their wins by very much. Even with the first overall pick, it may be something that gives them a few more wins, a little higher win share. But them being a playing team, I don't see them elevated to be a playoff team. So I'd still expect them to finish in that 7-10. I don't think that they'd finish below 10, but finishing above 7 would exceed my expectations.
Yeah. On to the Charlotte Hornets. They were bad everywhere. They finished last in the NBA in rebounds per game and pretty close to last in both offense and defense. They were bad. 21 wins all of last year. But this same exact starting lineup you got here from last year. LaMelo Ball, if he can stay healthy, he's had a real trouble staying healthy. Him and his brother Lonzo had just trouble. When he's healthy, he's really good. Brandon Miller was excellent last year as a rookie. Miles Bridges can be good. I mean, that's a pretty good power three. What do you call it? Big three? But it just wasn't enough last year, especially with LaMelo Ball hurt. They took Tijan Salan in the first round and KJ Simpson in the second. Other than that, not a whole lot of additions. Josh Green from the Mavericks was pretty good 3-point shooter. That's about it. Taj Gibson is about 80 now, so I don't know why he's still playing, but he's there. So their coaching staff changed over completely. Charles Lee is a first-time head coach. He's never been a head coach in the league. He just won a championship with the Celtics as an assistant coach last year. Comes over from them, and a brand new coaching staff brings over Chris Gent from the Lakers and Josh Longstaff from the Bulls. So brand new coaching staff in Charlotte. So it's my turn to talk first, and it all comes back to me for LaMelo Ball. If he can play 3/4 of their games, this is a much better team than they were last year. I think they can win. They can close in on 500 if LaMelo Ball is healthy. If he's out for more than that, this team falls back to those 21 wins that they had last year. Everything hinges on LaMelo Ball, in my opinion. So, Dustin.
I had very similar comments. I would say not just Ball, but this whole starting five. Especially the trio of Bridges, Miller, and having them play 80 to 90% of the games is important. And like you said, if they can do that, you go from 21 wins to 35 wins is probably their ceiling in this next season.
Yeah. I mean, these averages suck. We got two guys that are scoring what I would expect to see as a coach. We need Brandon Miller to have 3 more points for me to even be okay when not unsettled by the numbers on this team. And so, yeah, I agree. A lot of it goes on LaMelo Ball, but is he going to score 43 points a game? No, probably not. Is Miles Bridges going to score 41? No, probably not. Is Brandon Miller going to get 27? No. So I see this team sucking about as much or slightly more than the Hawks. And that's all I really have to say about the Hornets. They're not, I don't see a bright future there. And since, I mean, it's not like you get tougher after everything's breaking down. Like that, you're going to see more injuries happen to Ball, and it's not. I mean, it's not how I want it to go, and it's unfortunate, but I think that's how it is. Once a guy starts getting hurt, that's a road hard to jump off of, and they just kind of go down from there, especially with serious injuries. And I mean, if sprained ankles are taking you out, then what? I mean, who cares? So I think that they're just going to kind of plummet as far as success goes until they start putting actual stars who can get 35 plus in there.
Okay. Miami Heat. The Heat obviously were defending Eastern Conference champions heading into last year, and they didn't have the same type of success. They didn't find it. Finished 8th in the Eastern Conference. Pretty good on defense, pretty bad on offense. They lost their first play-in game, won their second, and then lost to the Celtics in 5 games in that first round. And so pretty quick bow out in the playoffs. This same starting lineup comes back. Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jovic, Bam Adebayo, who is really good defensively, Duncan Robinson, and Tyler Hero. Jaime Jaquez was a good rookie last year, and so he comes back. A lot of additions in the back end. Alec Burks, who's a pretty good spark plug if he can get enough minutes. He should average more than that, but he's a good player. And they brought over Khalil Ware, drafted him in the first round out of Indiana, and Pelly Larson out of Arizona in the second. But other than that, there's not many additions here. And so over to you, Dustin. Do you think the lack of additions helps? The same coaching staff, and that's probably the biggest thing. Eric Spoelstra is a hell of a coach. So,
yeah, the problem last year with the Heat was the same problem they had before when they faced the Nuggets in the finals, which fantastic on defense and struggles on offense. Where hey, if you can score 90 points, you got the game in the bag. That's what the other team has to score more than 90, and that's just not good enough in the NBA. I'm struggling to see how they improved upon that. Are they just, is Coach Spoelstra, he's a better coach than just say, hey, go play better. Like that's not what it's. And so these additions don't quite get us there. And so I wonder what the strategy is going to be in order to elevate them on offense. Because like you said, they're top 5 defense, but bottom 10 offense, and we need to bump those numbers up. Nothing about this lineup.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in a coaching position, Jovic and Robinson have to go. 12-9 and 2-8 on assists, dude. Get out of here, bro. I could get close to that. Not in the NBA, but definitely in a summer league. So I would say that your shooting guard needs to actually shoot and make more shots, and help be an asset on offense. Get your guys more open looks. I mean, nobody is really having the kind of assist numbers that you expect to see out of a basketball team on this team, and that's probably what I would say is being the downfall of them offensively. This is a really good defensive team, but you got to have both to be good. It takes 2 to tango. So that's what they're missing is 2 decent offensive players to help facilitate the other 3, and they'd be kind of set. I think this would be a contender team if you could fill those 2 giant gaps. But they are big, and it will cause them troubles.
Yeah. My problem with them last year, and it's continuing this year, is that they're putting Tyler Hero at the point. They don't have a point guard. Um, they don't have a guy to run this offense. They have most of the time Jimmy Butler is actually the point guard on this team, and that's just they need someone to facilitate this offense. Yancey, you pointed out the two shooters here. They both shoot pretty well from three, although Robinson kind of struggled last year from that area. But they're trying to create open shots for those guys. You need a point guard to distribute that, and not two guys like Butler and Hero that are more ball dominant. So they needed a point guard, and they didn't bring one in. So. Terry Rozier, I guess, but he's not much of a point guard. He's more of a ball guy too. So anyway,
Too many chefs in the kitchen there. Like too many guys that want to score instead of facilitate.
Yeah. On to the Orlando Magic. They won the Southeast Division last year. Surprised quite a few people. They did lose the first round to the Cavaliers in 7 games, 7 very hard-fought games. But they were really good on defense, second in the NBA. Kind of similar to the Heat. They weren't great on offense though. Paolo Banchero was excellent, and we've talked about him before about if he stays with the Magic, there's a lot of good things that can happen. They bring over Kentavious Caldwell-Pope from the Nuggets to help there. Great 3-point shooter, great defender that kind of fits in with that team and probably elevates them a little bit. Jalen Suggs is an excellent defender, played excellent in the postseason last year. That's a pretty good starting 5. And then you had this rookie Tristan Da Silva from Colorado, and the veteran Corey Joseph in free agency as well. Same coaching staff. So is this back to Yancey? I think to start.
So I mean, we're covering teams so far that are very similar. I think that in the NBA, it would be better to be a more offensive team with a decent defense than a really good defensive team with a horrible offense. I don't think that's the way to go. You can get through with that in football, but not necessarily in basketball, in my opinion, unless you're like the Ben Wallace era Pistons. And even they had a few people that could get to the hoop and score. I think that we're going to see a little more of the same out of this team, but Caldwell Pope was a good addition, in my opinion. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But I don't think this is a very good team this year, but they could be sneaky like they were last year.
This is kind of a tough division. Just not. None of the 5 teams in this division are great, except maybe the Magic this year. I do think the Magic are far and away the best team in this division. I think there's one good team and 4 kind of. There's one good team, a couple of okay teams, and then 2 really bad teams. And so I think the Magic are easily the best team in this division, and I'm hoping to see even more out of Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs and now KCP. I think this team can make some noise in the Eastern Conference and to even improve upon they were 5th in the Eastern Conference last year. I think they can get home field advantage starting in the first round this year. Be one of those, 2, 3, 4 in the Eastern Conference. I'm not sure I quite see them as a championship contender this year, but maybe next year.
Yeah, I looked second in defense, but 22nd in offense, right? Fantastic defensive team. And I really liked this team, their lineup, and I think that adding KCP only makes them better. Their depth hasn't changed, but I don't think it needed to all that much. This is, I think, a great addition of KCP, and I think it's going to make them better. So, Scott, similar to you, I think that this is absolutely a playoff team and most likely a home team playoff team. I love watching Banchero and Suggs. They're both great and big and fun to watch and going to be great for years to come, especially Banchero.
Right. Last team in this division, the lowly Washington Wizards, who won 15 total games all of last year. Um, and they were really bad in points allowed 123 points allowed. That's worst in the NBA. Also allowed the most rebounds, 25th in offense, 28th in defense. There's not much good to talk about this team. Uh, they did draft Alex Sarr with a second overall pick out of France, a big dude, 7 feet, but barely over 200 pounds, so might get pushed around in there. But another Frenchman taken second overall pick. Kyle Kuzma was able to stay. So that's a big win for the Wizards to keep him there. And they grabbed Malcolm Brogdon, a point guard they really needed. Bilal Koulibaly was a fifth overall pick last year and really came on strong near the end of the season. And he's pushing Jordan Poole to the bench because Jordan Poole was a horrible addition as a starter. Even though 17 points sounds okay, that's not what they paid him about 2 truckloads of money to do. And so he was better coming off the bench in Golden State. He's probably going to come off the bench in Washington and try to give them that kind of um, addition there. They also had a few other draft picks that they took in the first round, other first round picks, and so trying to build up that future for Washington. But the present doesn't look very good. Um, and Brian Keefe was an interim head coach last year after Wes Unseld Jr. was fired, and he gets to keep that record, even though he went 8-31 in his time as an interim coach. He gets to keep the head coach job. So uh, over to me. Okay, great. I don't know what more I can add. When when your best addition is Malcolm Brogdon, he's a good two-way player. It's just when you win 15 games, you need to build slowly, and I understand that. And these 3 first-round picks hopefully help, but this is going to be a tough year. I'm hoping that they have some glimpses of a future that can be good, but it's going to be a rough year.
Yeah, I've talked bad about Jordan Poole a lot ever since that trade happened. And so to continue the tradition, I just don't see how the Wizards could say, you know what, I'm going to take the 5th best player on another team and expect them to be the 1st best player on my team. Even though that team was the Warriors, yeah, nobody guarded him because they had Hall of Famers to worry about. And that's why he was able to do fairly well in Golden State. And now that you're the number one guy, it just doesn't work. You need some more development there. All right. Apart from that, similar to what you said, Scott, with bringing in Brogdon, he's a great role player. I don't see really anybody here except for Kuzma that takes attention away from Brogdon in order to allow him to be great. And so I don't see how we're going to increase wins very much. From 15, I think it'd be a successful season if you get above 23.
I mean, look, they might break a record, but it's only going to be the Pistons record for losses in a row. I don't see a whole lot of. I don't see a lot of good here. They're going to be kind of struggling for the bottom of the barrel in the NBA, in my opinion. We'll just have to see if I'm right or wrong on that.
Trying to get it. So now we're gonna pick this division down here, somewhere down here. Come on, move cursor. Okay, starting with Dustin this time, I guess, because Cody technically started. So Dustin, pick this division.
Yeah, Magic at number 1, Heat at number 2, Hornets at let's do Hornets at number 3, just for fun. Yeah. And then Hawks at number 4, and Wizards at 5. With the
Wizards at 6. I'm kidding.
Yeah, with the Hornets and the Hawks, I think I'm going to say, that's going to be a situation where they're both play-in teams. The Hornets are the 8 seed and the Hawks the 9 or the 10 or something like that.
Yeah. Oops. I have your same 2 in that order. I'm definitely changing up here, though. Hawks will be 3, Hornets at 4, Wizards at 5. Yancey?
All right, boys, let's sort this suckfest out. We're gonna go Heat 1, Magic 2, Hawks 3, Hornets 4, Wizards 5.
Okay. And we'll get Cody's. Cody said he'll watch this one so he can understand how we're picking as well. And so, okay, let's see how I think we can get. I know we can get through at least one more. And I'm making you guys dizzy. Okay, we're starting with the Pacific Division now. Golden State Warriors. A lot of change happening here. They finished 10th in the Western Conference and lost that first play-in game to Sacramento. Good on offense and middle of the pack on defense. Literally the middle of the league on defense. But the big one is Klay Thompson is gone. He left in free agency. You still have Steph there. You still have Draymond Green there. You still have Andrew Wiggins there. They bring in Buddy Hield from the 76ers to fill that number 2 role. He's a good role player. He's averaged more than this in his career. This was just last year in Philadelphia. He's a really good shooter. He could play. I could see him playing well in a Splash Brother role. But Dustin's smiling. We'll find out why in a second. But Kyle Anderson, Slow-Mo Anderson, added in free agency as well. As a second-round pick, Quentin Post out of Boston College, and Anthony Melton coming over from the 76ers as well. Other than that, not a whole lot to talk about in the second level. Brandon Podziemski was a all-rookie performer last year. But after the first level, it kind of falls off a cliff pretty hard. Adding Jerry Stackhouse in an assistant coach. So he was the Vanderbilt head coach for 6 years there. Obviously, really good NBA player in his own days, but now assistant coach for Steve Kerr and the Warriors. So over to you, Dustin. You get to start.
Yeah, it's some changes have happened. Obviously, with Klay Thompson moving on, a lot of people, myself thought that they would clean house and that Curry would be playing for the Hornets. That's kind of expectation, but nope, he's going to stay here and he'll probably finish his career here, or at least as long as Steve Kerr is. This is a team that has the potential to be really, really good. But I look at Andrew Wiggins, 13 points a game. He was somebody that was expected to be fantastic and has had real good sprouts of excellence and has not been able to maintain them. For that reason, I think that we're going to continue to see a decline with this team further from last year, and this may be the beginning of the end, or the continuation of the end. Maybe the end's already begun, but continuation, and this may not even be a playoff team.
Yancey.
Not a lot to disagree with what Dustin said. I think that he kind of hit the nail on the head. Losing Klay Thompson is going to be a huge piece to the downfall that I do believe we're going to see from coming out of this team coming up. Draymond Green's not performing where you need him to perform either. Short of that, I think I'll just cut it short and say that I agree with almost everything Dustin said, that this is a team in decline, and that after Klay Thompson left, I expected Curry to go with him, and since he didn't, he'll probably just retire out here. So, yep.
Last year, they finished last in this division. That wasn't necessarily because they were a bad team. It's just everyone else was so good in this division. This year, it's going to be a little bit different. I think the Warriors will be last because they're not very good. I remember when they lost to the Kings that someone said on one of the shows that we've seen the end. We've seen the Warriors dynasty is officially over, and I think we can say that now, that we'll never see Stephen Curry even in a Western Conference Finals again. So, yeah. Okay, the LA Clippers, they won this division last year, and then lost in the first round to the eventual Western Conference champion Mavericks. Really good offensively, fourth in offense. But Paul George is gone. So something we have to talk about. Kawhi Leonard is still there, but without his running mate, and you still have James Harden over there. But playoff James Harden was a lot different. He reverted back to his bad habits, and so they bring in Nicholas Batum from Philadelphia. He's not a scorer, obviously, but he's a really good defender, a really good 3-point shooter, really good distributor, and he's about 40 years old now too. So I don't know what that'll add really. Mo Bamba, Chris Dunn coming over, to pretty good players in their own role player ways. Derrick Jones is also a really good player for the Mavericks. So a few additions there. Tyronn Lue still there as a head coach. Over to you, Yancey. Clippers.
Yeah, short of Kawhi, I think this is a similar team as far as how I feel as the Golden State Warriors. I think they're also in a decline. All of their stars are getting old. You can only put so much weight on somebody's back before they can't hold it all. Kawhi was carrying this team, and you're just deducting stars and asking him to do more. And I don't think that's the way to go. James Harden is half the player that he used to be, and he's playing like it consistently, half as good as he used to. And I think that that's going to lead to this team having minimal, if any, success. I don't know that this team really even makes it into the playoffs.
Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, those two carried this team last year, and you remove one of them, and you got a problem. Especially when Kawhi Leonard historically doesn't stay healthy through a lot of the season, and so this team won the Pacific Division last year. That's not happening this year. I don't know. They could still be a top 10 team, but I worry about having success this year.
I'm thinking about this and seeing this. Yeah, I don't really like this starting lineup. Like you said, it's aging. They're probably going to be the oldest team in the league this year, but the depth, their bench, I actually really like a lot. With Mo Bamba, Norman Powell, Chris Dunn, Derrick Jones, PJ Tucker, Bones Highland, Amir Coffey. I really like this bench, and I think that's going to be the strength is their rotation, and the bench, and their ability to put a lot of different players on the court with different strengths that help them to win games. And so I don't disagree with what you said. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as we think. They may not win the division, but I think this is still a playoff team.
Nice call out. I like that. Okay, the LA Lakers finished third in the Pacific, eighth in the Western Conference, won the play-in game against New Orleans, and then got beaten 5 games by the Nuggets. Right, literally middle of the pack, 15th in offense, 16th in defense, hung right around the average. Obviously, LeBron James, Anthony Davis still there. That's a big power too. D'Angelo Russell is inconsistent, but when he's good, he hits these hot streaks that he's unguardable, and so he can be really good at times. They drafted Dalton Knecht in the first round, and look, as I put this together, I'm like, they don't have anyone else. He's going to start. He's starting from day one at that 3. Dalton Knecht, that rookie from Tennessee. He was a really good player at Tennessee. Obviously, 22 points, 40% from 3. He's a good player. Not much changes over here except for little Bronny. LeBron's son Bronny there, second round pick. You look at his numbers, and he was drafted because his daddy is LeBron. But it'll be fun to see him on the court just because father and son. But I'm not sure there's really potential for him. Obviously, nothing else really changes bench wise. You've got good players there. Rui is a good player. Cam Reddish is a good player. Jared Vanderbilt is a good player. But so I think it's over to me on this one. And I mean, when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you have a good team. Even though they're aging, they're 40 and 30 respectively at this point, and so it's it's going to get worse before it gets better, I think, in LA. But I do like the addition of Dalton Knecht. I think he can really stretch the floor a little bit more and get like Austin Reeves, Russell, and Dalton Knecht on the perimeter gives them really good shooters out there, and I think that can help this team. And I do like their bench. I think it's a playoff team. I don't think they win this division, but I think it's a playoff team. Dustin.
Quick comment on something you said. I think it's incredible that, Anthony Davis, LeBron James are 10 years older and both saying, oh, they're now finally starting to get out of their prime. The
Right.
Anthony Davis, his peak was at 30 and LeBron James's peak was at 39, or something like that. So let's call that out as how ridiculous and incredible talent and special it is to watch LeBron. I think the only thing I have to say is prepare for just every minute of ESPN and every coverage to be on this father-son. You're going to get it's the first father-son duo to dribble the ball. First father-son duo to airball a shot. First father-son duo to 6 games in a row. It's just going to, for the next 6 months, it's going to be first father-son duo to, fart on the bench. They're just going to report everything as the first father-son duo to do this. First father-son duo to miss the playoffs. So I think that Lakers are going to have a tough season, similar to how they did last season. But my prediction would be that it'd be similar, that they become a play-in team, get the 7, 8, 9 seed, and they're going to win that play-in game and then go lose the first round, like they have the last 2 years.
Again, not a lot to disagree with. I think that this team does have good bones. The structure of the team is good. Like how you were saying, Scott, there are some good role players here. There could be success. When they lose James and Davis, there's going to be some growing pains, I believe. Just because, those are two incredibly hard players to replace. But I do like that there's a good structure around this team that they can build with later in the future. I also share Dustin's sentiment that I'm going to be annoyed with them talking about how incredible it is that the father and son did this and that and this and that. And I do think that's going to be a pretty common trope throughout the games. But overall, I do agree that this is maybe they get in the playoff to kind of an on the bubble team. I don't see them being incredible or anything like that.
Okay. Phoenix Suns. They got swept in the first round by the Timberwolves, and there was a lot of comments about that. That you have this team with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal and Devin Booker, and you get swept in the first round. Like that can't happen. That was that kind of commentary after that, and you still have those 3 guys, Durant, Beal, and Booker, along with Grayson Allen, who was the NBA's best 3-point shooter last year. And Yusuf Nurkic. That's a really good starting 5 that needs to not get swept in a playoff series. But you see all the additions they made again for the second year in a row. They made a lot of additions on this team. Mason Plumlee comes over from the Clippers, Tyus Jones from the Wizards, Monte Morris from the Timberwolves, and then a couple rookies, a first rounder from Virginia and a second rounder from Marquette. So again, it's because they don't have any money, because there's all of their money is going to these 3 guys that they have to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Although Monte Morris is a good player, and so is Tyus Jones, but they get the veterans minimum because of where they are in their careers. Obviously, when you get swept, you lose your coach. Your coach, you can't afford to get swept even in his first year. And now Coach Bud is the coach over there. Mike Budenholzer, head coach in Phoenix. He's been the head coach for the Hawks, been the head coach for the Bucks, won a championship with the Bucks, I believe. So he's a good coach, but it's about these egos, and can that happen? So it's over to Dustin.
I thought that hiring Coach Bud was a very interesting move. Coach Bud is a very good basketball coach, and he has taken teams full of role players and made them great. Even, you look at his time in Atlanta and what he's able to do with those teams was fantastic. And then you look at what he did in Milwaukee to have this star, and he built a team around his star in Giannis and was able to win that championship by developing, Holiday, especially Drew Holiday, to where he needed to be and where he is now. This team, I don't see what you do with it, and so there you have fantastic star players, but it's hard to do much around them, I don't think. And it's because you got these three players who are so similar in their play style that you're not surprising the defense with anything that you do. There's no art of war to the strategy here. And so I think that we're going to see a similar result to last season, which is a pretty good regular season followed by a very disappointing postseason, because this is not a postseason basketball team. This is a regular season basketball team.
Yeah, they have everything you would look for, hoping to get success. I mean, they have the right players, a good coach, all the talent you could ask for. But I think that Durant's aging out. Booker's good, but I think in 3 years we'll see that he was overrated. And that he just kind of got broken down by the pressure of being the best. And then when it was time for him to be looked at as the best, he didn't perform to that level. And I think that's going to consistently affect this team if he's not able to do that. But they have all the pieces. They're just baking the cake too long, as far as I can tell. But all the ingredients are there. So I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I see the same problem here as I do with Miami. There's no true point guard on this team. There's a bunch of ball dominant guys with Durant, Booker, and Beal that want the ball. And Dustin said that they're the exact same play style, exact same kind of player. You need a point guard, and you don't have it here. You have Tyus Jones and Monty Morris. They're two good point guards, but they're not starting. You're paying these three guys like $1 trillion to play on the. So you can't really put one of those two guys on this floor at the same time. Just can't do it. And so maybe Coach Bud will figure out how to do that. Maybe move Grayson Allen to the bench. I don't know, but yeah, I see a really good regular season team followed by struggles when they're playing the top competition consistently. Okay, last team in this division, the Sacramento Kings, a really good season 2 years ago, not as good last year. Won that first play-in game to Golden State and then lost the second one to New Orleans, so they missed the playoffs. And they had DeMar DeRozan, though. That's a big addition from the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, 24 points a game. He was the best player on the Bulls, adding to this roster that also includes Domantas Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox and Keegan Murray, who was excellent last year as a rookie, or second-year player, maybe. I think he was rookie 2 years ago. So anyway, that looks like a really good starting five now with DeMar added to that fold. You also had Jalen McDaniels from the Raptors. You draft Devin Carter out of Providence, and Boogie Ellis. He was the guy out of USC that you're like, everyone said Bronny James isn't even the best player on USC. This guy was. Boogie Ellis was that best player on USC, and so you also had Jordan McLaughlin. Malik Monk was injured during that playoff time, and so having him back as a Sixth Man of the Year candidate is big, and that same coaching staff. So over to you, Yancey, about the Kings.
Yeah, I see this team as being kind of similar to the Suns in that they have like three pretty good players, all the things they need, good coaching, but probably just won't make it over that hump. But I do think that they're better than the Suns. I might sound foolish saying that, but I think that overall they have the makeup of another one of those bubble teams. Unfortunately, I don't think that they will get deep into the playoffs or even really into the playoffs. But I do think there's a good team that has what it takes to get there. But I don't think they'll execute for whatever reason.
So, here, I think I had some backyard brother vibes go through here. Cody was screaming. The Seahawks just returned kickoff for a touchdown.
Okay, nice. I would say that Yancey, you said you think you sound crazy for saying the Kings would be better than the Suns. I don't think you're crazy at all. This Kings team was the second seed in the Western Conference 2 years ago, and you're adding DeMar DeRozan to that. Um, I think this is a more balanced team than the Suns. I think they're a better team than the Suns, and when I previously said that I think I see the Timberwolves as my representative of the Western Conference in the NBA Finals, I think they play the Kings for that. Right. I think the Kings are one of the best teams in the NBA.
I think I agree with you a lot, Scott. I love the additions. I love this lineup. I love bringing in DeRozan. Fox had to be that guy to go get you a bucket whenever you needed it, and he was good at it. But he's a cutter. He's a driver. He gets buckets within 10 feet. DeRozan is a different play style that's a little more deliberate, and I think that he's going to be a great addition here. So I really like it. I like their bench. I think that, kind of like you said, the Kings could sneakily be a top 5 in the West team.
Okay. We're gonna go down here and pick this division now. Starting with me. I just kind of spoiled it, but I do have the Kings winning this division. And the Suns finishing right behind them. Clippers, Lakers, and the Warriors. And I can just actually move that. I guess I'll do that with one of you. Yancey, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Lakers, Kings, Suns, Clippers, Warriors.
Okay, Dustin.
God, I don't think I could choose anything different than what you have there. So Kings, Suns, Clippers, Lakers, Warriors.
Okay, that makes it easy. Okay. We're at 8:03. Do we want to put the Atlantic Division on to next week and do those 3 divisions and pick them next week, or do we want to try to sneak in a little bit of those teams? What are you guys' thoughts?
Let's.
Oh, we have Yancey's
Let's push
PhD.
it.
Yeah, let's flip off the PTI and do that next.
That's right. Let's do that. Yeah, Yancey, let's talk about your PTI.
Okay, give me 2 seconds while I look it up real quick. Okay, so sorry, we got a lot of text in here. Okay, so what are your thoughts on the crazy week in college football? Favorite upset and hardest loss to see? Just overall, we'll go through it. I liked watching Alabama, or I'm sorry, was it Georgia lost to Alabama this week, or was that 2 weeks ago?
That was 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
We lost to Vanderbilt last week. So
Vanderbilt, that's what I was thinking. Alabama, Vanderbilt was probably the most outrageous of the upsets, with Vanderbilt ripping out the goalpost, throwing
it in the river.
Putting the Nick Saban saying that the only team that's not hard to beat in the SEC is Vanderbilt on the big screen was cool. That was a big flex from Vanderbilt. And then what did Miami eke out a win against a super crap team by 1 point?
Cal.
That's what I was going to point out. Yeah.
Cal, yeah. I would say those are the 2 games that stuck out in my mind the most, best and worst.
Yeah, I would say that too. And shout out to our dad. And we talked about it offline. Vanderbilt alum. I'm not sure how much he followed Vanderbilt football, but they won. Yeah, the 2 big ones I wanted to point out beyond that was one you called out, Yancey, with Miami was down by almost by 20 points in the fourth quarter and somehow won. And so that was a crazy game, Miami and Cal. And then the other one was that national championship rematch between Michigan and Washington. Washington, unranked at the time, smokes Michigan in that game, wins by 10, really, in the fourth quarter. They're down in the fourth quarter as well, and they come back and they win by 10. Beat Michigan in the fourth quarter. So that's a big one.
Yeah, I loved the Vanderbilt one. I looked up the YouTube video of them just carrying the goalpost down the Nashville, and they're just throwing it in the river. It's just like, that's what you do. You dismantle your field. And so it's like, I just wonder whose idea that was. And it's just like, and everybody's like, yeah, that's great. So I thought that was.
Couldn't have done it in Alabama. You would have got shot.
Yeah. I think that my favorite is just with the hometown here, with Arkansas beating Tennessee. That was fun. There was a field rush on that one. That was good to see, and there's been a vibe here around the hometown. People are excited for the matchup against LSU next week.
I watched a really funny stand-up with a guy talking about the Arkansas cheer, the "Ooh, pig, suey," and he's like, "That's the dumbest cheer in the whole world." However, like if you're on the other field and you see 30,000 rednecks talking about pig suey down at you, that's gonna scare the hell out of you. So, yeah. Anyway,
Certainly
yeah.
Death Valley vibes, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Rapey Valley.
Yeah. All right,
No
Yancey, your second
offense, Dustin. You got a pretty mouth.
Looking
Yancey.
for volunteers.
What you volunteering for this week, boy? Okay. And then a little bit of MLB. Will Aaron Judge have the same postseason success that he's shown throughout the regular season? Basically, I think he's one of the best players in the MLB, other than was it Shinyo Otani or however you say his name, the Japanese guy playing real good. Yeah, that's it. What are your thoughts on Aaron Judge? How well he's been playing? Will he be able to carry that success into the postseason?
Before Scott comes in with a whole bunch of statistics and facts and logic and stuff like that, I'm gonna say that playoffs are a different beast. That although it's the same game, there's a different level of scrutiny. The pitchers throw harder, they throw closer to the edges, and you're a little more nervous to swing. And so I think from a standpoint, it's harder to perform better in the playoffs, and I think that as a result, it's going to look a little bit worse, but maybe have a good impact on the team.
It was a beautiful flex. I don't know how to because I have stats here. So.
Yeah, of course you have stats, Scott. If I yelled Laura, does Scott stats? She would say, "Yeah, babe," from the other room.
Yeah, historically, Aaron Judge has not played well in the postseason, and that's one of the reasons the Yankees haven't won a World Series, is because Aaron Judge has not taken his regular season form into the playoffs. He bats .208 in his postseason games. That's, if you're familiar with baseball, .208 is like you should not be less than a quarter of your hit. He's hitting less than a quarter of his time on the plate or getting on base or whatever. He has 13 home runs in his postseason games in 46 postseason games. So it's just he hasn't really had that kind of success in the postseason. And part of that is, Dustin, to your point, that it's harder against really good teams, every game, every night, in and out against really good teams that are really good pitching, and so you're not playing the bad teams of baseball anymore. You're playing the best, and so that's certainly part of it. I would like to see him finally bring that his regular season into the postseason. So it still hasn't quite happened yet this postseason, but we're still early as long as they can beat the Royals. So, any thoughts from you, Yancey, on your own question?
Nah, I would just be lying because I think he's gonna play really good. But with all that information that you guys gave, it does make sense that your performance is going to decline. It's at the end. You can't bench as much weight at the end as you can at the beginning, and so I do understand the answer to the question you guys give. But I'd like to see the Yankees have success. And I was just kind of interested to hear your point of view on if Aaron Judge would continue to have that kind of success. I don't know that I really had a point of view or opinion on the question. I just wanted to make it.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. Well, we got through it all this week with a couple minutes to spare. Next week will be very basketball heavy because we need to finish all 3 divisions and do playoffs. And so it'll be heavy on basketball next week. We'll still have time for a memory, a quick football minute, and PTI, and that's about it. So, yeah.
Cool.
Any last thoughts? Okay. Checking in on that game before we get out. The game behind you there, Yancey, and the game in front of you, Dustin. 49ers lead 23-10 right now in the fourth quarter, looks like. So
Middle of the third.
middle of the third. Okay.
Yeah, 5:40 left.
Okay. So yep. I hope Cody's having fun at his dinner party, and we'll check in on him next week. So
All right.
yeah. Bye everyone.
See you boys later.